Good morning. Hand today is going to be ace 2 offsuit. We are under the gun. We are at a 10-NL game. We only have 7 players at this point. I am first to act and I fold. Cutoff open raises and the button calls. So the cutoff's playing 17-13. We have a few notes on him. We've got easily 163 hands. And what we're going to see is that he does seem to increase his range by position. His raise first in stat goes up to 45%, and the cutoff 40% on the button, 67% in the small blind. I do think he will take opportunity to steal within a decent hand. Notice how many hands we're talking about though. So 5 out of 11 and 4 out of 10. Change this. If this is 5 out of 10, that's 50%. If it's 3 out of 10, it's 30%. Basically the same thing here. You increase it to 6, you decrease it to 4. It's going to cause a pretty big change in percentages. So we kind of have to figure out what's going to be our actual range. What kind of percentage do we target? So I started here. This is 42%, and it's probably I think it is in the 40s. Could be a little higher, could be a little lower, but I think this is probably what we're targeting. So I did give offsuit aces. The offsuit hands I do think like king 9, queen 9 is probably in there. This gets us to 44. I think it's in this range, plus or minus some of the fringe hands. Maybe we have all of the suited queens. If we go to that doesn't really raise it a huge amount. If we add the offsuit kings, it's going to add 5% easy. So we're going to go with this range. This villain's playing 12-8. We do have some hands. So we know that 3-bet range is queens plus ace king. And the hands that has called has been king 10 off and queen jack off. So I do think we are looking at broadways minus the queens plus ace king. I think these are going to be raised. I think pocket pairs are calling. And then the question is suited aces. Do we include them? If we don't, we're at 15. If we do, we're at 18%. We've got 283 hands, and he's played 15% from the big blind, and then pre-flop he's called 11%. I'm kind of thinking maybe he doesn't have the suited aces. I know a lot of people do. A lot of people play suited aces in the big blind. They call them here and hope to flop either an ace, but not everyone. I think this gets us down to 15%, and I think that's probably a little bit more reasonable. Now, I mean, it is possible that he has a wider 3-bet range, and that gets us down closer. So, expanding it to jacks plus ace queen or 10s plus ace queen gets us down to 15. That's probably a little bit more realistic in terms of the percentages that we're dealing with. And I think maybe that's what we need to do. I think just take out, let's say we take out the suited aces. And let's see here, we've got king 10 and queen jack off. Yeah, we're just going to leave in all the broadways and these pocket pairs, and maybe he doesn't have all of them, but I think that's pretty good. So we have our 2 ranges. Let's see the flop. It is ace queen with an 8 of diamonds. So 2 clubs, diamonds. They both check. And I think that's a mistake, 100% mistake. He should be attacking. I take that back. We have a tighter range here. We've got a range with Broadway that's going to connect. This guy has a lot of hands that's going to have to check that has to get rid of because he doesn't connect. So yeah, when I say he should be betting, it sounds like it, but probably not. I think exploitatively we do. I mean, he's got a pretty high to fold to C bet, but working through ranges here, seeing his hands, kind of thinking, while you usually attack with a bet here, maybe we shouldn't. Definitely against this guy. Definitely against this guy. So I'm thinking he would have bet top pair. I think a lot of people just kind of freeze. I mean, he's got a pretty high C bet here. In position, 57%. That's strange. 4 out of 7. And it could be the situation where he's got all these cards and he just misses. So he's got all of these. Would he bet a flush draw? Yeah, I think he would bet a flush draw. I think he would bet open ender. We're dealing with 60%. He would have a lot of top pair. I think gut shots could be bet. Would he bet those? Would people? We'll leave him out, or we'll kind of leave him in. So he checked and his range just tightened up. 3 clubs connected. So now there's a flush on the board. So is there any chance that he's betting now? I think if he had one of these better hands, he probably would have bet. But once that 3rd club comes out, I think now it's just going to be a check. And I think he's going to continue that with the check. Yeah, I think he's checking here with 100% of his range. This guy checks again. Yeah, I think now the set's probably, if he connected, he's still probably going to be checking here. I think if he had the nut flush, he might be betting. So we'll exclude the nut flush and probably the 2nd nut flush. I guess we'll include the 3rd in his hand. 9 of diamonds connects. Our villain 2 bets. I think at this point we're going to exclude the flush. I think he probably would have bet. But he could have all the rest of these hands. And then villain 5 checks. And same thing. I think he would have bet his flushes. I think maybe he has a straight. It would be an odd way to play a straight. He would have connected late. I think he could bet, go for a little bit of value. I think he could bet with 2 pair and go for a little bit of value. And I think he should. I don't know if he will bet, but I think he should. So we're just, I'm going to go back to here. Yeah, he should have a bunch of those. I was just saying, I didn't have nothing. So a lot of ranges. Let's see what we get. Villain shows king 10, so that was in his range, still is. Basically one of the nothings. This guy shows 10-8 of spades, so we have that in his range. That was, a weak pair. 10-8. I kind of feel like that could have been used as a bluff, but I think we're gonna have to scale back our c-bet based on the board and the ranges. So I think this is one. Let's run a GTO and see what it says. All right, so I've got GTO. We need to check the flop so we can build it. So it's 550 is the starting. Stacks were big. We'll just do 98, make it simple. We're going to set minimum bet at 50%. Build the tree. We built it. We are going to edit it. So we want our first action to be that check, because I think that's realistic. I don't think he's gonna. It's not deal with donk bets. All right, so we're gonna run solver and be back. All right, this is done. We had our check. So bet 39%. So I told you initially this was a great spot to attack, to exploit. I think against a lot of looser players it is. They're going to have a lot of hands that are in like the suited aces, suited kings, one gapper, two gapper, three gapper suited hand ranges, and this board's not gonna connect with them. This guy, on the other hand, had broadways and pocket pairs, and you have two Broadway cards. He's gonna likely connect, so we're going to have to be a little bit more careful on what we bet. So we are betting top pair plus, but we're not betting all top pair. We're betting our ace king, ace jack, which is our good top pair, gives us backdoor straight draws as well. And then we're sometimes betting our lower ones. We're including our bets with the diamonds. So basically we're betting the diamond aces and checking the non-diamond aces. So we're betting with our backdoor draws. The offsuits are basically just checking. So with their offsuit aces, we're checking, and that ensures that we also have our top pair there. In terms of draws, flush draws are basically being bet. Not all of them. It looks like our lower flush draws are going in for checks, but it looks like our suited kings are being bet for the most part. We're betting those. We are withholding some of our flushes, so if we check behind, it's not automatic to say we don't have flushes. Same thing, open-ender, we're basically betting those. We're betting them with our diamonds, we're betting with our clubs, and then we're mixing in some bets with our non-backdoor flush draws. So he had 10-8 of clubs, or 10-8 of spades, so his check was okay. Seeing this now, kind of working through the ranges, totally makes sense. I think I'd see that and say, okay, well, he's got offsuit broadways. And then I see the 15 and flipping through the 11. I think at that point I'm saying, okay, it's probably just Broadway. I see this board. He probably connects it. I hope I'm good enough to not try to bet here in this with most of my range. So he did well with check. And then 3 of clubs comes out. Now at this point, villain should be betting. So big blind should be betting. He should be betting his top pair hands. Some of his top pair hands, but we should be betting, 36, easy 37% of the time. It's going to be hard to kind of actually get percentages. So, the idea is that sometimes we're going to be betting, sometimes we're not going to be betting. So some of our flush is going to be betting, some of it's going to be a check. We're just trying to mix up our game. Here, I think if he bets, the cutoff is going to fold no matter what. If cutoff doesn't have anything. So he had the king 10 off. I think he had the king of diamonds and 10 of clubs. So this could be a bet. He's got a gut shot. And it does. GTO is saying you should be betting this, 80% of the time. But again, you're mixing it up. This is a mixed strategy. Yeah, Jack 10 is going to be different because you have an open ender. Like ace queen should be being bet. Ace jack. So basically, your top pair hand should be bet. Go for some value. Your middle pairs, not so much. Not so much. 2 pair set flush. Go for value and then mix in some of these draws. So he did okay, and then we're back to the 10-8. So it went check check, and now we're betting still only about 36% of the time. The first check eliminated some of our stronger hands. This is going to eliminate really the rest of our stronger hands. So if we go there with the flushes, with sets, the 2 pair, our top pair, we're basically betting it again. Now you can see our top pair hands like the ace jack, ace 10, and ace 9. Probably ace 10, ace 9 were checks before, unless it was a diamond draw. Now it's basically we're going to be betting those ace 10, ace 9s. We're going to be betting the ace 2, some of the ace 4, ace 5. Really just ace 6 and ace 7 are going to be the checks. So it's the middle ones. So totally understand that. Totally understand that. So it's basically we would have bet the big ace, top pair, good kicker. Bet those on the flop, check basically the rest, and then up on the turn. Now when it gets checked to us again, now we can kind of get a little bit weaker on our kicker as to what's in our betting range. We would be betting the nut flush draws. Looks like we're betting mostly the second nut flush draws. I'm gonna say the jacks are kind of interesting here. Pocket jacks. Guess we're checking those because we may have a little bit of value. And really, well, no, we're checking because we're really not. We don't really have a whole lot of value. If we bet and get called, we're probably not going to win. So we're turning them into a bluff, but at the same time, they are kind of strong. They've got some showdown strength with that. Guess we beat 10s, 9s maybe. Jacks are interesting. All right, so we went check. And then that last hand was 9 of diamonds. Nine of diamonds connects. Villain, interesting. Checks the flush. I bet since it goes check, villain's just saying, we're gonna go for a check raise. I bet that's what it's gonna be. Yep, check raise 100% on there. No big surprise. Actually, it is a surprise that he's not leading with the flush. But I guess if you have the flush and the flop and the turn go check, it's unlikely that cutoff has a very strong hand. So all that we can hope for is that cutoff tries to bet as a bluff. And then we can raise, and maybe he has a hand that calls just a bluff catch. That's my guess. We are going to bet the straight. We're going to lead the straight out. If we get called, I think we're getting called basically as bluff catches. I think that's all we're going to get called with. We're not betting a whole lot. We're betting 31%. So, but we are betting. We are betting top pair hands. We're betting 2 pair hands. We're betting. We're trying to get a little bit of value from those hands. He had king 10 off, or yeah, king of clubs, 10 of diamonds. GTO is saying he should bet this. I do think he should. He could bet this as a bluff. You're blocking kings. You're blocking some of the flushes. You're blocking like the 10 jacks. Kind of makes it more likely that this guy's gonna have like a non-Broadway hand, something down low, and it's gonna be hard for him to call. I think at this point you could easily have 10 jack, which you block, a 9 of some sort. Any of those queens. I think you'd be hesitant to bet the queens. So king 10, GTO is using king 10 as basically to protect your straights, 2 pair, that sort of thing. So he checks. What about the cutoff? At this point, cutoff, if he makes it to this point, he's expanded down to middle pair here. So the queens, basically, our top pair hand keeps getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So you can see that we're now betting with our ace and the weaker kickers. We've gone down to the queens, where like the queens were basically your pair of queens were checks. They were checks before. So now they've kind of expanded to a bet. So our betting range started at the top and then has slowly kind of gotten weaker and weaker and weaker as the betting action went check, 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 check. 10-8 spades, still a check. So I think according to GTO, these played okay. King 10 probably should have been bet. I think that this was the guy that had the opportunity to bet to pick up the pot. He did too. I mean, I kind of think if he bet on the river, he's not going to call. But I think it's got to be the bet on the river. If he bets on the flop, King 10 is probably calling. If he bets on the turn, King 10 is probably calling again. If he bets on the river, I think King 10 folds. So it's one of those things, if he chooses to c-bet, it's going to take 3 barrels to try to get King 10 off the hand. But if he checks behind, checks the turn, and then bets the river, it's one bet to try to pick up the pot. It's going to be harder. He's going to definitely think, is he bluffing? I mean, I know I would after going check, 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 check. It just seems like, what? Now you bet? Now you bet? And I'm thinking it's going to be a weaker pair. But even with a King 10, you're going to fold. I think this guy could have bet and picked it up. And he probably could have bet on the turn. And I do think that's probably when he should have bet. Once he goes check, check, he had the lead. He chose not to bet. Let's attack. If you get called, you're still drawing to a club and you're drawing to a jack. So you miss on the 9. You bet he calls. I'd bet that. I'd probably bet that again. So this guy could have easily picked up this pot. All right, so we went through another hand. Looked at GTO on it. I think he missed value or missed a chance to win the pot. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another.